Welcome to our video on California Landlord-Tenant laws. Subscribe to our channel for more videos and landlord tips. Landlords need to be familiar with California laws to manage their rentals well. To help you do this, here are some key landlord-tenant laws in the Golden State. The lease agreement is the foundation of the landlord-tenant relationship. It's a legally binding contract between a landlord and tenant that outlines the terms of the rental relationship. The most common type of lease agreement is a one-year, fixed-term lease that terminates at the end of the lease period. This is often referred to as a standard lease agreement. There are some required disclosures that California landlords must include in their lease. Landlords must provide tenants with a smoking policy that states whether smoking is allowed and the specific areas where it is permitted. If the rental unit has shared gas or electric meters, the lease agreement must state how utilities will be shared and allocated. New tenants must be notified in writing that the California Department of Justice operates a website with information on registered sex offenders. This disclosure should include specific language from the California Civil Code. When pest control remediation has been performed, landlords must provide tenants with a copy of the remediation report. California law requires that landlords advise tenants about the risk of bed bugs, provide information on how to prevent them, and share policies about reporting the presence of bed bugs. Landlords must also provide documentation that they have inspected the property and found no presence of bed bugs. The AB 1482 Just Cause Addendum must be attached to the lease agreement and signed by both the landlord and tenant unless the property falls into an exemption category. See the description below for details on exemptions and a link to our AB 1482 forms. Landlords of rental properties built before 1978 must provide tenants with a lead-based paint disclosure and pamphlet. California landlords must disclose the health risks associated with mold by attaching a mold disclosure to the lease agreement.
State law requires that landlords with actual knowledge that a rental property is located in a special flood area disclose this risk to tenants. California landlords must notify new tenants if there's been a death in a rental unit in the past 3 years. California landlords with knowledge of former federal or state ordinance locations in the neighborhood or area must disclose this to tenants in writing. If a California landlord has received any type of permit to demolish a rental property, this must be disclosed before the lease is signed or the security deposit is accepted. California landlords must provide written notice to all prospective tenants if the rental unit has been deemed contaminated by methamphetamine or fentanyl, or if the unit is in remediation. Landlords must also provide prospective tenants with a copy of the order deeming the property contaminated. Next, let's talk about key California landlord-tenant laws. As of July 1, 2024, California landlords may not charge more than 1 month's rent for the security deposit for furnished and unfurnished rental units. There is an exemption for small landlords. Landlords who own no more than 2 rental properties, including not more than 4 dwelling units, may charge up to 2 months' rent for the security deposit. Before entering the property for non-emergencies, landlords must provide tenants with reasonable notice. California courts have found that 24 hours written notice is reasonable for maintenance or showings. Landlords should give 48 hours notice before a move-out inspection. There is no specific limit on late fees in California, but they should not exceed a reasonable estimate of costs incurred. California landlords can require tenants to get renter's insurance.
Returned payment fees may not exceed $25 for the first check or $35 for each subsequent check to the same payee. Fixed-term leases terminate at the end of the lease period unless otherwise stated in the lease agreement. Month-to-month leases can be terminated by either party with 30 days notice if the tenant has been renting for less than a year. 60 days notice is required if the tenant has been renting for more than a year. The California Tenant Protection Act sets statewide limits for rent increases. Landlords cannot raise rent more than either 10% of the lowest rent charged during the past 12 months or 5% plus inflation, whichever is lower. In addition, many cities and counties have their own rent control laws, so it's important to research local restrictions before increasing rent. California law requires that landlords keep rental units in a habitable condition. This includes ensuring that essential services like plumbing, heating, and electricity are functioning correctly. Tenants should promptly notify landlords of any necessary repairs. Tenants in California have specific rights, including the right to withhold rent, if a landlord fails to make essential repairs. Retaliation by the landlord against the tenant is strictly prohibited. If a tenant fails to pay rent or violates the lease agreement, the landlord may start the eviction process. Landlords must strictly follow California law, and the landlord cannot resort to self-help eviction methods, such as changing locks or shutting off utilities. Congratulations! You're ready to create your lease agreement. Our California lease is easy to customize online. All required disclosures are automatically included, and you'll get state assist tips as you build it. And as you manage your rental, remember we have over 400 property management forms, including California state-specific forms. Visit easylandlordforms.com for all the tools you need to manage your California rental.